There's a name that's starting to buzz around the star in Frisco, and it might not be the one you were expecting. While the Dallas Cowboys have spent the past few months trying to figure out what their secondary is going to look like come week one, especially with some big names rehabbing from injuries, one guy has quietly been stacking good days and making the most of an unexpected opportunity. And now he's not just making noise. He's being recognized as the biggest offseason surprise and winner by none other than ESPN. We're talking about cornerback Kair Elam, a guy whom many had written off after a rocky start to his NFL career in Buffalo, but who now looks like he might just have a real shot at locking down a starting job in Dallas. Now, let's rewind for a second. When the Cowboys made the move to acquire Elam from the Bills, a lot of fans were curious, if not a little skeptical. This wasn't a blockbuster trade. It wasn't some splashy headline move that dominates social media for days. It was more of a quiet shift, a gamble with relatively low cost, swapping later-round picks and hoping that maybe a change of scenery would unlock the potential Elam once flashed back in his college days at Florida. And look, the Cowboys weren't just rolling the dice blindly. They had him graded highly coming out of college. In fact, he was on their radar as a top defensive back prospect in his draft class. But for whatever reason, whether it was scheme fit, depth chart politics, or just things not clicking in Buffalo, Elam never found his footing there. He started just 12 games over 3 seasons, managed a couple of interceptions, but nothing that screamed future star. So, when he landed in Dallas, expectations were, let's call them cautiously optimistic. No one was handing him a starting job. He was just another guy in the mix, trying to find a role in a secondary that, on paper, already had a few big names in it. But then came OTAs, then minicamp, and slowly, Elam started to pop. We're talking about multiple interceptions, lockdown coverage, and even a couple of would-be picks that he just didn't hang on to, the kind of performances that make coaches sit up a little straighter in their chairs when they're watching film. He wasn't just present, he was consistently making plays. And considering the situation the Cowboys are in at cornerback, with Trayvon Diggs still working his way back from a serious knee injury, and rookie corner Savion Red battling through his own rehab process, it's not just nice to have Elam stepping up. It's necessary. Because here's the thing. When training camp rolls around and the pads finally go on, the picture is going to shift. It always does. Players who shine in shorts and helmets sometimes disappear when the intensity cranks up. But the fact that Elam is already putting together good days, stacking plays, and earning praise this early in the process, that's a huge win for Dallas. It's what you want to see from a guy who came in with something to prove and who now might be staring down a legitimate opportunity to not just make the roster, but to be a real contributor right out of the gate. And if you've been following the Cowboys coverage over the past couple months, especially during those open practice windows, none of this should be shocking. Elam has been a constant presence, breaking up passes almost daily, putting pressure on receivers, and frankly just standing out from a depth group that's been, well, kind of thin. With Diggs sidelined and other names like Josh Butler, Andrew Booth, and Kalen Carson dealing with their own setbacks or limited reps, the Cowboys were really down to a few healthy bodies getting significant time in practice. And that's where Elam seized his moment. While other guys were sidelined, he was out there running with the ones, making a case to not just be on the team, but to start. And not in some emergency plug-in way, but as someone who might actually deserve that job based on merit. Now, does that mean he's locked in? Of course not. It's still early. But there's a growing sense that Elam has turned a corner, that maybe this is finally the version of the player people expected coming out of Gainesville. A guy with size, speed, and instincts. A guy who can cover top-end receivers without being a liability. A guy who, even if he's not locking down A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith every snap, can at least be steady, reliable, and competent. And for the Cowboys, that would already be a massive upgrade from the rotating door they've had in recent years when injuries pile up. Let's not forget the playoff stretch where Dallas was trying every name under the sun at cornerback. Kelvin Joseph, Nashon Wright, Xavier Rhodes. Remember that? None of those guys panned out the way fans hoped. It was a weekly scramble just to find someone who wouldn't be a target for opposing quarterbacks. So if Elam can come in, hold his own, and avoid being that weak link, that's already a huge win. And there's something to be said for how he's doing it, too. This isn't just about him benefiting from other guys being hurt. Sure, availability has helped him get more reps, but he's doing more with those reps than most expected. The defensive staff has noticed. Teammates have taken note. It's not just, oh, he's out there. It's, wow, Elam's out there again, making plays. That consistency is what coaches love to see, especially from someone trying to shake off the label of draft bust. And while no one's crowning him just yet, the signs are promising. It's not crazy to think he could start opposite Darren Bland when the season opens, with Bland sliding inside to nickel when needed, especially if Diggs isn't ready for Week 1. And honestly, it feels like the coaching staff is preparing for that exact scenario. And speaking of Darren Bland, who has really cemented himself as a valuable piece in that secondary, having a guy like Elam step up alongside him would ease a lot of pressure. It gives the defense more flexibility. It lets them be more creative with their alignments, disguises, and matchups. And it could mean that a unit that looked dangerously thin just a few weeks ago now has a chance to hold its own until the Stars return. Because look, we don't know when Diggs will be fully back. We don't know how fast Red can ramp up to full contact. But we do know the NFL doesn't wait. You either have someone ready to go, or you get exposed. So the more prepared Elam is to step in and contribute from day one, the better Dallas's chances are of surviving that early stretch of the schedule. One of the biggest challenges with evaluating off-season performances, especially in shorts, is knowing how much of it is real. How much of it translates when the intensity rises and the bullets start flying for real. It's easy to get hyped over a guy making plays in a controlled environment. But with Elam, it doesn't feel like empty hype. There's a sharpness to the way he's playing, a readiness. He's not just reacting, he's anticipating. And that's the difference between someone who's barely hanging on and someone who's finally starting to turn the corner. It's also telling how the team has handled his progression. They haven't forced anything. No one's come out and declared him the next big thing. But they also haven't held him back. They're giving him reps with the starters, letting him take on real responsibilities, putting him in situations where he's got to prove it against guys who are going to be on the field come September. That speaks volumes. Because if he wasn't showing them something real, they wouldn't be doing that. They're not just filling space out there. They're evaluating, building a roster, deciding who they can count on when the real bullets fly. And right now, Elam is putting himself in that conversation. Of course, there's still a long road ahead. Training camp is right around the corner, and that's when the real evaluations begin. Pads go on, physicality ramps up, the tempo changes, and guys either rise to the challenge or fade into the background. That's when we'll see what Elam is really made of. But he's put himself in the best possible position heading into that next phase. He's done the groundwork, made the early impression, built some trust. Now it's about capitalizing on that momentum and proving he can hold up when the contact starts and the competition heats up. One of the things that stood out about Elam coming out of college was his football IQ. He's not just an athlete, he's a student of the game. That was one of the reasons teams were so high on him coming out of Florida. He had the measurables, sure, size, speed, long arms, good burst, but what really separated him was how he understood coverage, how he anticipated routes, how he competed at the catch point. That version of Elam never quite materialized in Buffalo, but it wasn't for lack of ability. It just never clicked. The scheme didn't seem to match his strengths, and his confidence seemed to take a hit as his role diminished. But in Dallas, we're seeing some of that confidence come back. You can see it in the way he moves, the way he reacts, the way he talks after practice. He's not guessing. He's reading, reacting, closing. That's when you know a corner's in rhythm. He's not chasing plays. He's dictating them. And even if he's not making a play on every ball, he's in position. He's challenging receivers. He's making quarterbacks think twice. That matters. In this league, sometimes just being in the right place is enough to throw off timing, disrupt rhythm, and force an incompletion. That's what coaches care about. That's what separates playable corners from liabilities. Now, no one's pretending that all the problems in the Cowboys secondary have suddenly disappeared. There are still legitimate concerns. Diggs is coming back from a major injury. Savion Red, who they hoped could step in and contribute, is still not 100%. Jordan Lewis is gone. So there are real questions about who's going to play where, how the matchups will shake out, and whether the unit can hold up against some of the elite offenses they'll face this year. But Elam playing well gives them a real option, a solution they didn't necessarily count on when the offseason began. And that's the kind of surprise you want. A guy emerging organically, proving he belongs. It also changes how they might approach the rest of the offseason. If Elam keeps showing this kind of progress, maybe they don't feel the urgency to go out and sign another veteran corner off the street. Maybe they give him the leash and see if he can grow into that role. That opens up roster flexibility elsewhere. It lets them use cap space differently, allocate practice reps with more purpose. All because one guy is stepping up. And let's be honest, you can't win in today's NFL without solid corner play. There are just too many elite receivers, too many creative offenses, too many ways to get beat if you've got a hole in coverage. If you don't have guys who can hang on the outside, you're going to get exposed. So when you find anyone, who shows signs of being able to hold their own, that's worth paying attention to, especially when that guy comes with first-round pedigree and still has his best football ahead of him. Another layer to this whole story is how much better the Cowboys' defense could be this year if even just one or two things break their way in the secondary. The front seven is already loaded. Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. DeMarcus Lawrence still brings it. They've got rotational depth, interior talent, young linebackers with speed. So if the back end can just hold firm, just not be the weak link, this defense has the potential to be elite. That's not an exaggeration. They've already been top 10 in most major categories over the past 2 seasons. Add in a competent, healthy cornerback group, and suddenly this unit starts to look like one of the best in the league. That's why someone like Elam matters so much. He's not being asked to carry the unit. He's not expected to shut down number 1 receivers every week. He just has to be solid, steady, a guy who does his job. And if he can do that, if he can be even 80% of what they hoped when they traded for him, that might be the difference between this defense being good and being truly dominant. And it's not just about this season, either. Elam is still young. He's still on his rookie deal. If he sticks and continues to grow, he could be a long-term piece. That's huge for Dallas, who've had to patch together their cornerback group for years. Finding a young, controllable player who can contribute consistently gives you flexibility elsewhere on the roster, whether that's extending other guys, investing in different positions, or just knowing you've got one spot locked down for the foreseeable future. It also gives Elam a chance to rewrite the narrative on his career. Let's not forget, this is a guy who probably didn't imagine he'd be traded this early. First-round picks don't typically get moved so quickly unless something's gone wrong. So you know he's motivated. You know he's aware of the perception. And you better believe he wants to flip that script. Every rep he takes in a Cowboys jersey is a shot at redemption. And that kind of hunger, that's dangerous. That's exactly what you want a guy trying to prove himself. Because ultimately, football is a game of opportunity. Some guys get it early. Some have to wait. Some need a second shot. But when that window opens, what you do with it defines you. And right now, Kair Elam is making the most of his window. He's shown up. He's competed. He's made plays. And he's put himself firmly in the mix at a position where Dallas desperately needs answers. So yeah, it's still early. Training camp hasn't started. The real tests are still to come. But what we've seen so far, that's more than just off-season optimism. That's a player seizing his moment. And if he keeps trending the way he has, don't be surprised if you see number 24 starting on the outside come week 1. Not because of injury, not because of necessity, but because he earned it. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a surprising turn of events, Ezekiel Elliott, the former star running back for the Dallas Cowboys, has broken his silence and delivered sharp criticism aimed directly at the team he once represented. Sources close to the NFL community are buzzing with rumors that Elliott's recent comments could spark tension within the Cowboys' locker room and even affect team dynamics moving forward. Elliott, who was once a face of the Cowboys franchise, has apparently grown frustrated with the organization's direction and performance. Insiders suggest that his remarks go beyond mere dissatisfaction with on-field results. He allegedly took aim at the club's management, coaching strategies, and even the players' commitment. This is an unexpected move from Elliott, who had been relatively quiet since his departure from Dallas. According to those familiar with the situation, Elliott's criticism highlights a perceived lack of leadership and cohesion within the team. Rumors have it that he feels the Cowboys have lost their competitive edge and that the culture within the organization no longer aligns with the standards he believed in during his prime years. While the exact details of his statements remain under wraps, the impact is already being felt among fans and analysts alike. The Cowboys, a franchise with a passionate fan base and high expectations, have struggled to find consistency in recent seasons. Elliott's comments add fuel to ongoing debates about the team's future and whether major changes are needed. Some insiders speculate that his boldness in speaking out could inspire current players to either rally together or cause divisions, depending on how the leadership responds. In the midst of these rumors, the NFL community is closely watching Dallas, wondering if this public critique from a former star signals deeper issues within the organization. Could this be the spark that leads to a major overhaul? Or will the Cowboys use this as motivation to silence doubters and return to prominence? Only time will tell, but for now, Ezekiel Elliott's outspoken stance has certainly shaken the foundation of the Cowboys narrative. The buzz is real, and the story is far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.